Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Silent Fear. Where are you watching from tonight, and what time is it in your country? Have you shared my channel with your friends yet, or are you keeping these whispers all to yourself? Here we explore chilling true crime and eerie mysteries, stories that slip between fact and nightmare. Tonight I have another dark tale for you, the disturbing true crime of a quiet librarian who vanished without a trace. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that low, unsettling hum, and let's drift into tonight's journey together. You are lying on the sand of Somerton Beach. It's December 1, 1948. The air in Adelaide, Australia is thick with the smell of salt and the sound of the tide retreating. It's early, just past 6:30 a.m., and you're staring at a man leaning against a seawall. He looks peaceful, like he's just sleeping off a particularly long night. But as you get closer, you realize he isn't breathing. His suit is impeccable, his shoes are polished to a mirror shine, and his face is perfectly shaved. He's the most well-put-together corpse you've ever seen. It's almost rude of him to be dead in such expensive clothing. You reach into his pockets. There's no wallet, no ID, no name on the labels of his clothes. They've all been meticulously cut away. It's as if he didn't want the world to know who he was, or perhaps he didn't exist at all until he decided to lie down here. You find a tiny piece of paper, rolled up tight like a secret, hidden in a secret fob pocket of his trousers. You unroll it. 2 words, Tamam Shud. Ended, or finished. Researchers still argue whether this man was a Cold War spy or just a very dramatic romantic who decided to exit the stage with a poetic flourish. The mystery of the Somerton man is a mainstream staple of the unidentified, but the weirdness goes deeper. There's a fringe theory, an urban legend whispered in late-night forums that the Somerton man wasn't human at all, but a temporary person, a glitch in the fabric of reality that was finished and thus had to be deleted, leaving only the suit behind. You look at his face. He has no scars, no signs of struggle, just a half-smoked cigarette resting on his collar. It's a very polite way to go, honestly. I wish I could be that organized about my own afternoon naps. But then again, most people don't find a code written in the back of a rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam that points to a local nurse who claims she's never seen you before, even though she looks like she's seen a ghost. Death is such a commitment, isn't it? Most of us can't even commit to a Netflix series, yet this guy committed to an untraceable identity for 70 years. You have to admire the hustle. It's like he was playing a game of hide and seek where he won by never being found, even though we were staring right at him. But you're still on that beach. The sun is coming up, and you feel a strange weight in your own pocket. You reach in, hoping it's a winning lottery ticket. Instead, it's just the feeling of being watched by someone who isn't there. Maybe that's the real secret of the Somerton man. Once you're finished, the world just keeps moving, unaware that you ever had a name to begin with. The salt of the Australian beach fades, replaced by the heavy, suffocating scent of yeast and rising dough. You are standing in a prison kitchen. The year is unimportant. The heat from the ovens is eternal. You are watching a man named Charles, a baker who has spent more time with sourdough than with his own family. He's a quiet man, the kind who blends into the background like a smudge of flour on a dark apron. Charles is tired of the iron bars. He's tired of the way the guards look at him as if he's just another piece of equipment. So, you watch him work. He isn't making dinner. He's making a masterpiece. He's been saving the dry, powdery dust from the bottom of the flour bins for months. He's mixing it with something else, something he shouldn't have. He's creating a mold, a hollow shell of a man made of bread. In the historical annals of prison breaks, the Baker of Brussels is a semi-obscure legend. He didn't dig a tunnel. He didn't bribe a guard. He baked a life-size decoy of himself, complete with a crusty face and poppy seed eyes, and tucked it into his bunk. Researchers still argue whether he actually escaped, or if he simply walked out the front door while the guards were busy eating the real Charles. You see him now, slipping into the massive cooling rack? He doesn't look scared. He looks like he's finally found the right recipe. There's an old superstition in the darker corners of the culinary world. If you bake a loaf of bread in the shape of a person you hate and then eat it, they will vanish. Charles took it a step further. He baked himself, and in doing so, he vanished from the system. It's a bit ironic, don't you think? Most people try to avoid being toast in prison, but Charles leaned right into it. I suppose if you're going to be a fugitive, you might as well smell like a fresh baguette. It's better than smelling like guilt, an unwashed inmate, I imagine. But as you stand in that kitchen, you notice the decoy in the bunk isn't just bread. It's moving, slowly. The yeast is still active. The doughy chest rises and falls. The guards walk by, satisfied that Charles is sleeping. They don't realize that the man they're watching is slowly fermenting. You feel the heat of the oven against your back. You realize that the baker didn't just escape the prison, he escaped the physical world. He left a version of himself behind to do the time, while he became the smell of cinnamon in the hallway. It's a great way to avoid taxes, if nothing else. Just bake a tax-paying version of yourself and go live in the woods. The kitchen goes dark. The only sound is the soft crock of a cooling crust. You wonder if the Somerton man ever visited this bakery. He certainly had the suit for a high-end pastry shop. The smell of bread turns to the dry, dusty scent of old paper and decaying glue. You are in a library now, not a modern one with bright lights and computers, but a labyrinth of mahogany shelves that reach so high they disappear into the shadows of the ceiling. This is where the vanished librarian lived, or died. It's hard to tell the difference when you've spent 40 years shushing people. In 1992, a librarian in a small town in Vermont simply stopped existing between the M and N sections of the biography aisle. No footprints, no struggle. Just an open book on a cart. The book was a history of local disappearances. Talk about on-the-nose foreshadowing. Researchers still argue whether she was a victim of a sophisticated kidnapping or if she simply stumbled into a literary vacuum. There's a fringe horror tidbit associated with this building, the ink stain theory. It suggests that if a person spends enough time surrounded by the written word, their consciousness begins to bleed into the pages. You look at the shelf next to you. There's a book bound in what looks like very pale, very smooth leather. You reach for it, but your hand trembles. You've heard the superstition that some books aren't written, they're grown. It's a tough job being a librarian. All that quiet. It's enough to make anyone want to fold themselves into a pocket and disappear. I once tried to organize my own life alphabetically, but I got stuck at A for anxiety and never moved on to B for breakfast. You hear a page turn. It's loud in the silence, like a bone snapping. You realize the library isn't empty. Every book on these shelves is a life. The vanished librarian didn't leave, she just got promoted to a hardback edition. You look at the ink on your own fingers. Is it from your pen, or are you starting to smudge? The silence here is heavy. It's the kind of silence that has weight, like a blanket made of lead. It reminds you of the Somerton man's labels. If you don't have a label, you don't have a place on the shelf. And if you don't have a place on the shelf, you're just loose leaf, waiting for the wind to take you. Don't worry though, the library is very safe. As long as you don't mind the fact that the fiction section is slowly expanding to include your own memories, it's much cheaper than therapy really. You just trade your soul for a library card and a very high late fee. You see a figure at the end of the aisle. It's the librarian. She's translucent, like a vellum page held up to the light. She puts a finger to her lips. Shh. You realize she's not shushing you because you're loud. She's shushing you because the books are trying to tell you how they got there, and you really don't want to hear the ending. The library shelves dissolve into the drywall of a suburban home. You've just moved in. The paint is fresh, the floors are waxed, and the mortgage is terrifying. You're lying in bed, listening to the house settle. That's what the realtor told you. Houses groan, she said. It's just the wood expanding. But as you lie there, you notice the groan has a rhythm. It's a rhythmic, wet sound, like a bellows or a pair of lungs. You realize the house isn't settling, it's breathing. In 1986, a family in Illinois discovered that a man had been living in their crawl space for 6 months, watching them through the slats of the air vents. He hadn't stolen anything. He just liked the company. Researchers still argue whether the watcher phenomenon is a result of modern architectural flaws or a psychological byproduct of urban isolation. But there's a more obscure horror fact for you, the architectural echo. It's an old superstition that a house can remember the people who built it, and if they weren't happy, the walls will try to inhale the new residents to fill the void. I've always wanted a roommate who didn't talk back or eat my leftovers, but I think Wallman is taking the minimalist lifestyle a bit too far. Imagine the rent he's saving. He's basically living off the grid while being perfectly on the grid. It's a bold financial move if you ignore the creeping madness. You look at the vent above your head. Is that a shadow or a pupil? You think about the baker and his bread decoy. Maybe there's a bread version of you sleeping in your bed and the real you is already behind the drywall waiting for the next family to move in. The breathing gets louder. You reach for the light switch, but you hesitate. What if the light shows you something you can't unsee? What if the watcher is actually just you from the future, trying to warn yourself about the library fines you're going to rack up? You feel a draft. A cold, narrow stream of air hitting your forehead. It's coming from a hole in the ceiling that wasn't there yesterday. It's the size of a human eye. You realize the house isn't just breathing. It's looking for something. Probably the remote. It's always the remote. But you know better. You know that once someone starts watching, the show never ends. You're the protagonist in a very dull, very terrifying sitcom that only one person is watching. And he's not even laughing at your jokes. That's the real tragedy here. The walls of your new home turn to rough-hewn timber and cold stone. You are in the Bavarian woods 1922. The snow is waist-deep, and the wind sounds like a choir of ghosts. You are at Hinterkaifeck, a farmstead that feels like it was built on a graveyard. You see the footprints. They lead from the edge of the forest directly to the barn. But there are no returning prints. Whoever walked into your barn is still there. You've been hearing footsteps in the attic for days. You found a newspaper you didn't buy. The lock on the tool shed has been tampered with. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's most gruesome unsolved mysteries. 6 people were killed with a mattock, a pickaxe-like tool, the most disturbing part. The killer lived on the farm for days after the murders. He fed the cattle. He ate the food in the kitchen. He kept the fire going. He was the ultimate house guest, if you ignore the whole mass murder thing. Researchers still argue whether the perpetrator was a disgruntled neighbor or a literal ghost of a soldier who never came home. But locals whisper about the shadow man of the woods, a fringe superstition that suggests some places are so lonely they create their own inhabitants out of sheer boredom. It's hard to find good help these days, but a killer who does the chores is a weirdly efficient trade-off. Thanks for the homicide, but I really appreciate you milking the cows. It's all about perspective, really. You are in the barn now. The lantern flickers. You see the mattock leaning against the wall. It looks heavy. You feel a hand on your shoulder. It's cold. It's the same cold you felt in the library, the same cold that the Somerton man carried in his suit. You realize the footprints in the snow weren't coming for the family. They were coming for the house itself. The watcher in the walls has been around a long time. He just changes his tools, from vents to mattocks, from bread to shadow. You try to run, but the snow is too deep. It's like the earth is trying to pull you under, to add you to the finished pile. The shadow man isn't far behind. He's humming a tune, a soft German lullaby. It sounds like the fan you turned on earlier. The unsettling hum that's supposed to help you sleep. Are you sleeping yet? Or are you just waiting for the footsteps in your own attic to stop? Don't worry, he's a very clean killer. He'll probably even do your dishes before he leaves. The Bavarian snow melts into the humid air of Ohio, 1976. You are opening your mailbox. It's a mundane act, but your heart is racing. You've heard about the letters. Everyone in Circleville has. They come in white envelopes. The address is written in a strange, blocky hand that looks like it was taught by a machine. Inside, the letters tell you things, terrible things. They know who you're seeing. They know what you did in the library. They know about the bread you left in your bed. The Circleville letter writer was a real-life phantom who terrorized a town for decades, even continuing to send letters while the prime suspect was in solitary confinement. Researchers still argue whether the letters were a coordinated effort by several townspeople or the work of a single omniscient sociopath. But there's an obscure urban legend that the letters were actually written by the town itself. A superstition that if a community holds on to too many secrets, the soil will eventually start vomiting them up in the form of poisonous ink. It's like a gossip column, but with more death threats and less fashion advice. I personally prefer my hate mail to be a bit more constructive. You're a terrible person, but your hair looks great today. Is that too much to ask? You read your letter. It says, I saw you at Hinterkaifeck. I saw what you did with the lantern. Your blood runs cold. You didn't tell anyone about the barn. How could they know? You think back to the Somerton man. He had no labels, no name, no secrets left in his pockets except for finished. Maybe that's why he was safe. If you have no identity, the letter writer has nothing to write about. The ink on the page starts to move. It's black and oily, like the shadow in the barn. It's spreading across your fingers. You try to wash it off, but it's under the skin now. You are becoming a letter. A secret waiting to be mailed. You look around Circleville. Every house looks the same. Every vent is a watching eye. Every mailbox is a mouth waiting to scream. You realize that the watcher doesn't need to be in your walls if he's already in your head. Sleep tight, and maybe don't check your mail tomorrow, or ever. It's mostly bills anyway, and those are arguably more terrifying than an anonymous death threat. At least the letter writer doesn't charge interest. The Ohio suburbs dissolve into the cobblestone streets of Strasbourg, 1518. It's hot, so hot that the air feels like it's vibrating. You see a woman, Frau Trophea, step into the street. She begins to dance. There is no music. There is no joy in her face, just a terrifying mechanical motion. Within a week, 30 more people join her. Within a month, 400. They dance until their feet bleed. They dance until their hearts burst. They dance until they collapse into the mud, only to twitch and kick even in their sleep. The dancing plague is a historical fact, a mass psychogenic illness that defied every doctor of the age. Researchers still argue whether it was ergot poisoning from tainted bread, there's that baker again, or a collective religious ecstasy triggered by extreme stress. But there's a fringe theory, the rhythm of the void. It's an old superstition that the earth has a pulse, and if you listen too closely, your body will be forced to match it. I can barely manage a light jog to the fridge without getting winded, so dancing for 3 weeks straight sounds like my personal version of hell. I hope they at least got some decent cardio out of it. Join the plague. Lose 10 pounds in your soul. You feel a twitch in your own toe. Then your ankle. The rhythm is under the cobblestones. It's the same rhythm as the breathing in the walls, the same rhythm as the ticking clock in the library. You realize you can't stop. You're part of the chorus now. The local doctor is watching you. He's debating whether to give you a tonic or just let the shadow man take you. He looks like the Somerton man, but with more grime on his suit. He leans in and whispers, Tamam Shud. You're dancing through the town. You pass the mailbox in Circleville. You pass the barn at Hinterkaifeck. You pass the cooling racks of the prison bakery. Every story we've told tonight is just another step in the dance. The exhaustion is starting to set in, but the rhythm won't let you fall. It's like a puppet string pulled tight from the attic. You are a bred decoy, moving to a music only the watcher can hear. Don't worry, the dance ends eventually. Usually when the ink runs out or the finished scrap is found. Until then, just keep moving. It's good for the circulation, or whatever is left of it once the shadow man gets his hands on you. The heat of Strasbourg vanishes, replaced by the biting frost of the Isdalen Valley in Norway, 1970. You are hiking through the Valley of Death. There, among the jagged rocks, is a woman. She is badly burned, surrounded by a strange collection of items, a dozen wigs, several pairs of fake glasses, and a suitcase with the label scratched off. The Isdal woman is one of the most enigmatic cold cases in history. She had multiple identities, spoke 4 languages, and traveled across Europe with a mysterious purpose. Her death was ruled a suicide, but the burnt labels suggest something far more clinical. Researchers still argue whether she was a Mossad spy or a victim of a high-stakes international conspiracy. But there's an obscure urban legend called the Identity Thief of the Frost. It suggests that some people aren't born. They are assembled from pieces of other lives, and when the timer runs out, they must burn their masks and return to the ice. It's hard enough to keep track of one identity. I can barely remember my own password for the streaming service I never use. Imagine having to remember which wig goes with which passport. It's a logistical nightmare. I'd probably just accidentally end up at the airport as Janet from accounting when I was supposed to be the Viper. You look at the wigs. They look like the hair of the librarian. You look at the suitcase. It's the same one the Somerton man had. The labels are gone. The world has no way to hold on to you if you don't give it a name. You feel the cold seeping into your boots. The dancing plague has led you here, to the quietest place on earth. You realize the Isdal woman didn't burn her labels to hide from the police. She burned them to hide from the watcher. If he doesn't know who you are, he can't write your name in a poison letter. But look at your hands. They're starting to look like dough. The baker's secret is everywhere. We are all just decoys, aren't we? Wearing masks made of ink and bread, dancing until we freeze in a valley of death. The wind picks up. It sounds like a whisper. Finished. You reach into your pocket. You find a pair of lead goggles. You don't know why you have them, but you feel a sudden urge to climb a hill in Brazil. The dance never stops. It just changes locations. The Norwegian ice turns into the dusty heat of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. You are in a soundproof trailer. It's dark, except for the glow of a reel-to-reel tape recorder. You press play. A voice comes out, calm, clinical, and utterly monstrous. This is the Toy Box Killer's introduction. It's a mainstream horror story that haunts the dreams of anyone who has read the transcripts. He spent $100,000 to build a torture chamber, but he called it a toy box. He used medical equipment to keep his victims alive, to prolong the game. It's a level of cruelty that feels alien, like it belongs to the Shadow Man rather than a human being. Researchers still argue whether David Parker Ray had more accomplices who were never caught, or if the static hum of the desert simply produces people like him. But there's a fringe superstition, the sound of the sands. It's the belief that the desert acts as a giant recording device, capturing every scream and playing it back through the wind. I'm more of a board games and cocoa kind of guy when it comes to toy boxes, but I guess some people really lean into their hobbies. It's important to have a passion, even if that passion involves a custom-built soundproof trailer and a complete lack of a soul. You feel the walls of the trailer closing in. They're made of the same drywall as the watcher's house. You realize the toys aren't just objects, they're us. We are the bred decoys, the dancing victims, the Somerton men. The tape keeps playing. It's describing what's going to happen next. But the voice starts to sound like me. Or maybe it's the librarian. Or the doctor from Strasbourg. The voices are all blending into one unsettling hum. You try to find the door, but it's been replaced by a bookshelf. You try to scream, but your throat is full of flour. The toy box isn't just a trailer, it's the whole world. We're all just waiting for the tape to end. But the tape never ends. It just loops, like the footsteps in the attic, like the dance in the street. You realize that the finished scrap wasn't the conclusion, it was just a label for the next reel. The static gets louder. It's the sound of the fan. The fan I told you to turn on. Do you hear it? Or is it the watcher breathing in the vents? Either way, it's time to move to the hilltop. The signal is coming. The desert heat is replaced by the humid, tropical night of Rio de Janeiro, 1966. You are climbing Vintum Hill. Two men, Manuel and Miguel, are with you. They are electronics technicians. They have a strange mission. They are wearing formal suits, just like the Somerton man, and waterproof coats. And, most importantly, they are wearing crudely made lead masks over their eyes. They are found dead days later. No signs of violence. No struggle. Beside them, a notebook with instructions. 16,030 be at the agreed place. 18,003 swallow capsules. After effect, protect metals, wait for mask signal. The lead mask's case is a cornerstone of unexplained true crime. Were they trying to contact aliens? Were they part of a secret society? Researchers still argue whether the capsules were poison or a failed attempt at a psychedelic shortcut to another dimension. There's a fringe theory called the goggle dimension. It suggests that there are things in the air entities like the Watcher that can only be seen through lead, but the human brain isn't built to handle the sight, so it simply shuts down the body in self-defense. It's a bold fashion statement, I'll give them that. Lead goggles and a raincoat. It's industrial. Chic meets doomsday cult. I usually just wear a sleep mask when I want to avoid the world, but I guess lead is more effective if you're worried about cosmic rays or annoying neighbors. You put on the masks, everything goes dark, but not a normal dark. It's the dark of the toy box, the dark of the library. You see the shadow man clearly now. He isn't a shadow at all. He's made of the same light as the signal. He's holding a letter from Circleville. He's eating a piece of the baker's bread. He's waiting for you to finish the dance. You realize the signal isn't a message from space. It's a notification that your label has been processed. You feel the capsule dissolving in your throat. It tastes like iron, like the water in a certain hotel in Los Angeles. The after effect is starting. Your body feels heavy, like it's being turned into lead itself. But don't worry, the masks will protect you. Protect you from what? From seeing the Watcher step out of the vents and into the room? From seeing the Somerton man walk back into the ocean? The hill is quiet. The city of Rio is far below, a sea of lights that look like ink on a page. You are finished. For now. Until the next journey begins. The lead masks fall away, and you are standing in a vacant lot in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, 1947. The air is cool, and the morning sun is just beginning to burn through the fog. You see a figure on the ground. At first, you think it's a discarded tailor's mannequin cut in half at the waist, its skin as white as a fresh loaf of bread. But as you get closer, you see the Glasgow smile carved into the face. This is Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. Her body has been drained of blood and posed with surgical precision. It's the ultimate finished statement. The Black Dahlia murder is perhaps the most famous unsolved crime in American history. The level of detail, the way her labels were metaphorically removed by the brutality of the act, mirrors the Somerton man's literal removal of his tags. Researchers still argue whether the killer was a skilled surgeon or a deranged artist using a human canvas. There's a fringe superstition called the Hollywood parasite. It's the belief that the city itself requires a perfect tragedy every few decades to keep its glamour alive. Elizabeth Short wasn't just a victim, she was an offering to the shadow man of the silver screen. It's quite the dramatic debut, isn't it? Most people just try to get a bit part in a commercial, but Elizabeth ended up as the most famous leading lady in a movie that never ends. It's a bit of a grim career move, but at least she doesn't have to worry about her agent calling. You look at her pose. It reminds you of the Dancing Plague. Her arms are thrown back as if she's in the middle of a grand finale. You realize the killer didn't just dump her here. He, Watcher, he staged her for an audience that wasn't supposed to exist. You feel a presence behind you. It's the Somerton man. He's looking at her with a sad, recognition-filled gaze. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a scrap of paper. He places it near her hand. To Mom should. The vacant lot starts to feel crowded. The librarian is there, shushing the crows. The baker is there, dusting the ground with flour. They are all part of the same unsettling hum. You realize that the Black Dahlia isn't just a story from the past. She's the mannequin in your own closet. She's the shadow in your own vents. We are all just poses in a vacant lot, waiting for the lead masks to tell us when the signal is over. But the fog is coming back. It's thick and white, like the bread dough in the prison. It's time to move to the mountains. It's getting cold. Very, very cold. The fog of Los Angeles turns into the blinding white out of the Ural Mountains, 1959. You are on the Mountain of the Dead. Another great name. You are inside a tent with 9 other hikers. It's freezing, but you're safe, or so you think. Suddenly, something happens. Something so terrifying that you don't use the zipper. You take a knife and cut a hole in the side of the tent. You run out into the sub-zero night wearing nothing but socks. You don't look back. The Dyatlov Pass incident is a mainstream mystery that has spawned 1,000 theories. Some hikers died of hypothermia. Others had internal injuries as severe as a car crash, but with no external bruising. One was missing her tongue. Researchers still argue whether it was an infrasound-induced panic, the same unsettling hum we've been talking about, or a secret military test. But there's an obscure legend of the Menk, a Siberian version of Bigfoot that doesn't just kill you, it steals your internal rhythm and leaves you hollow. I usually struggle to get out of bed if the room is below 70 degrees, so running into a Russian winter in my underwear is a hard pass for me. I'll take the watcher in the walls over internal rhythm stealing. Yeti, any day of the week. You are standing in the snow. You see your friends huddled under a cedar tree. They are trying to climb it. Why? Because the ground isn't safe. The ground is moving. It's the rhythm of the dancing plague. You look back at the tent. There's a light coming from the hole you cut. A signal. It looks like the lead mask's signal. You realize that whatever was in the tent with you wasn't a monster. It was the finished scrap. It was the realization that your label had been removed. The cold is absolute. It feels like the Isdal woman's valley. You are becoming a frozen mask. You try to scream, but your tongue is already gone. It's been shushed by the librarian. The shadow man is walking toward you. He's wearing a waterproof coat and carrying a mattock. He's the watcher, the baker, the letter writer. He's the one who poses the bodies in the vacant lots and the mountains. He leans in and whispers, "Don't worry. It's almost over. Just one more elevator ride." The snow begins to swirl into a vortex. It's pulling you down into the basement of a hotel that has a very famous elevator. The Ural Mountains melt into the carpeted hallways of the Cecil Hotel, 2013. You are standing in an elevator. The doors won't close. You press the buttons, but nothing happens. You look out into the hallway. You start moving strangely, waving your hands, hiding in the corner, talking to someone who isn't there. This is the final footage of Elisa Lam. A few weeks later, guests complained about the water pressure and a strange taste. You know the rest. She was found in the water tank on the roof. The Elisa Lam case is a modern classic of internet sleuthing. Researchers still argue whether it was a tragic mental health episode or something more supernatural. But there's a fringe theory, the elevator game. It's an urban legend that says if you press the buttons in a specific order, you can enter a shadow dimension where the watcher is the only resident. I've had some bad hotel experiences, mostly involving overpriced minibars and itchy towels, but tasting like iron because there's a body in the tank is definitely a 1-star review on Yelp. Great location, but the water was a bit too true. Crime for my taste. You are in the elevator. You see a figure in the hallway. It's the Black Dahlia. She's smiling that carved smile. Behind her is the Somerton man. They're waiting for you to step out. The water in your hotel room is running. You can hear it from here. It sounds like the unsettling hum of the fan. It sounds like the static from the toy box. You realize the elevator game isn't a game. It's the signal Manuel and Miguel were waiting for. You feel a weight in your stomach. The iron taste is spreading. You're turning into lead. You're turning into bread. You're turning into a secret letter. The doors finally close, but when they open, you aren't on the roof. You're in New Orleans. It's hot. The air is thick with jazz and the smell of blood. The Axeman is waiting. The elevator doors open to the humid, jasmine-scented night of New Orleans, 1909. You are walking down a cobblestone street. The sound of jazz is everywhere. It's a requirement. The Axeman sent a letter to the newspapers. "I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose house a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned." The Axeman of New Orleans was a serial killer who broke into homes and attacked people with their own axes. He was never caught. Some say he was a demon. Others say he was just a very opinionated music critic. Researchers still argue whether the murders were racially motivated or the work of a disorganized psychopath. But there's an obscure superstition, the note of the netherworld. It's the belief that certain frequencies of music can act as a shield against the shadow man, while others act as an invitation. I'm a big fan of lo-fi beats to study and relax to, but I didn't realize that my playlist was the only thing standing between me and a guy with a hatchet. Play some Miles Davis or I'm coming for your head. Talk about high-stakes music appreciation. You hear the jazz playing from a nearby window. But it's not normal jazz, it's the rhythm of the dancing plague. It's the internal rhythm stolen from the hikers in the Ural Mountains. You see the Axeman? He's standing in a doorway, he's wearing a suit with no labels, he has a lead mask over his eyes. He's holding a mattock, he's the Watcher. He's the one who wrote the Circleville letters. He's looking at you, he's not attacking, he's just waiting. He's waiting for the music to stop. He's waiting for the finished scrap to be found. You realize the Axeman isn't a person, he's the end. He's the Tamam Shud. He's the one who posed Elizabeth Short and burned the Isdal woman's labels. The jazz gets louder. It's drowning out the unsettling hum of the fan, but you know that once the record ends, the silence will be absolute. The silence of the library, the silence of the vacant lot. The Axeman raises his hand. He's not holding an axe. He's holding a library card. He's shushing you. The jazz fades into the low, constant hum of the fan in your room. You are back in your bed. Or are you? You look at your hands. Are they flesh or are they bread? You look at your walls. Are they drywall or are they the toy box? We have traveled from the beaches of Adelaide to the heights of the Ural Mountains. We have seen the masks of Rio and the pose of Los Angeles. Every story has been a piece of the same puzzle, a puzzle that says finished but never actually ends. Researchers still argue whether the Shadow Man is an external force or just a reflection of our own fear of being forgotten, of having our labels removed. But the fringe truth is simpler. We are all part of the Watcher's narrative. He's the one who writes the letters. He's the one who plays the tapes. I've spent tonight whispering these secrets into your ear, but I'm just another voice in the unsettling hum. Maybe I'm the baker. Maybe I'm the librarian. Maybe I'm the one waiting on Ventum Hill with a pair of lead goggles. You feel a scrap of paper in your hand. You don't need to look at it to know what it says. It's the same one the Somerton man had. It's the same one the Black Dahlia was offered. Tamam Shud. But as you drift off, remember the dancing plague. Remember that even when the body stops, the rhythm continues. The Watcher is still in the vents. The Axeman is still listening to the jazz. The Isdal woman is still burning her masks. The story isn't over. It's just finished for tonight. The fan will keep humming. The shadows will keep watching. And tomorrow, you'll check your mail and hope there isn't a white envelope waiting for you. Sleep now, if you can. The library has a spot for you between M and N. The toy box has a new reel of tape, and I'll be here waiting for you to come back to the beach. Don't forget to like and subscribe. After all, the Shadow Man loves a high engagement rate. It's the only thing that keeps his labels from being cut away. Good night, or goodbye, depending on which mask you're wearing tonight.